Thank you for staying with us. At your daily election. I hope you are getting up to make your choice. Today on the program, President Muhammadu Buhari addresses Nigerians on Naira redesign policy, saying their old 500, 1,000 notes are no longer legal tender. And later on the show, we take a look at how the general election will be fought and won in Anambra, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Ekiti, and Osun states on the pundit segment of the program. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. On the show today, I have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Emeka Madunagun. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right. President Muhammadu Buhari has taken a step to address the crisis plaguing the nation due to the scarcity of Naira notes. The president stated that old 500, 1,000 notes are no longer legal tender in the country, while 200 Naira will remain legal until April the 10th. He sympathized with Nigerians, apologizing to Nigerians over the difficulties experienced in accessing the scarce new Naira notes. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Ebun Olu Adegborua, has reacted to this development, saying that the president flouted the principle of separation of powers, that the president cannot overrule the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Jide, this is getting interesting. I read that speech, and the president has foreclosed the possibility of 500, 1,000 Naira coming back, and he retained the 200 Naira till the 10th of April. And going further, the CBN disclosed yesterday that they've even disposed the 500 and 1,000, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes, that they're no longer in circulation. I still have like 20,000 of the old notes with me, and people are not responding again.
Well, Mr. President is not God, and he's not bigger than the Nigerian state. The president needs to be told that he's not bigger than the state. He's not Louis XVI. The state. So he's not Nigeria. He's not bigger than the highest court in the land. He's subject to the highest court in the land. Mr. President calls himself the converted Democrat. This speech that he read today does not show that he's converted. This speech reeks like the speech made by a dictator, an unrepentant dictator. That's what it's
military general.
Like. A general, a military. You know, you can even be a general and be really welcoming to ideas. It sounded like, look, it is me, and this is what I want, therefore it has to. What is the point in reading this statement? People had been dying before now. People didn't begin to die yesterday. Remember the guy who dropped dead while on the queue some weeks back? You didn't think it was important to address Nigerians. You chose to address Nigerians because you knew the Supreme Court was going to make a decision. You wanted to preempt the decision of the Supreme Court by letting the Supreme Court realize that this is your body language, this is how you feel, this is what you want. Ayo, we chose this profession because we want Nigerians to know that there are some of us who can stand by the truth. And in doing this job, we are not scared of anyone, not a president. I conquered fear a long time ago. If I cannot say on this medium, it's Mr. President is not the Nigerian state. it needs to be told. Obasanjo, in my view, was a stronger president than President Buhari. But there was a time when he lost about 10 straight cases in court.
Back to back, remember.
What happened?
Lagos State versus federal government, back to back. Atiku versus Obasanjo.
Several
back
cases
to back.
that Atiku defeated him several times.
Yes.
And his lawyer was Afebaola. He kept losing. But Obasanjo did not then come out to read a speech trying to say that he's the state, because that's what that speech looked like. That is the speech that you can only expect to read from a dictator. And you say you are a converted Democrat. But the converted Democrat is not prepared to wait for the Supreme Court to give his verdict.
Like preempting.
You are preempting. That's the strategy is clear. There was an attempt to to make peace with the governors, and that was where the idea of April 10 was suggested. You can see that that story that Premium Times published was not entirely wrong. You know, yesterday that story was flying around that they were, yes, because it was part of what was proposed to the governors, that let's have this one. But the governors are saying, okay, even that 200, if we release the 200 Naira notes, it will still not be sufficient to solve the problem. It will not be sufficient to solve the problem because that's not the only currency that we need.
Some people will say that if it were President Muhammadu Buhari has spent 7 years, and in the last 4 years, if it were to be Muhammadu Buhari on these ballots, would he have dared to implement this policy at this time? A lot of people are very, very skeptical about the timeliness.
Well, I can't speak for Muhammadu Buhari because I don't belong to his government, I don't belong to his party, and I don't share the same ideas with him. But I can just point out something. The Electoral Act, if you remember the Electoral Act of 2018, that was passed by the 8th National Assembly, and he refused to sign it because some things which later came out in the Electoral Act signed, he he signed, sorry, and passed by the Lawan-led National Assembly, where in that one, under Saraki, Bukola Saraki, so he refused to sign them. The assumption was that because it was going to, it might affect his chances in the election. That was an assumption. Yeah. Even though he came out to say it had nothing to do with it.
Well, he didn't pass. 2 times he had opportunity to sign.
Yeah, he refused to sign it. So, well, going by that, what you asked might be said, well, one might hazard a guess towards that. But what I want to believe is that, well, beyond just the timing of the policy, I think the policy, good policy, no doubt, but I think the rough edges were not really looked at, smoothened out before.
And a lot of people will ask, why the rush?
It was brushed. Well, the thing is that in my years as a journalist, I have seen times when government policies came, they sat well with the people. Government policies came out, didn't sit well with the people. So that's why there is that regular interface. There should be that regular interface between the government and the people. I think the government allowed the situation to dictate its actions instead of it controlling the narrative. It had all the chances to control the narrative.
We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still John Lestanga. We'll be right back.
My name is Kashim Shetima. I'm the APC Vice Presidential candidate. According to Conperry, a global consulting firm, by 2030, there will be a global talent deficit of 85 million. Because of our useful population, our geographic location, and our proficiency in English, Nigeria stands a unique chance of becoming the global talent factory. The building behind us is the Secretariat for the Implementation of the Startup Act. Is the Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. Of the 7 unicorns in Africa, 5 are in Nigeria, all in Lagos. It wasn't a coincidence, neither was it an accident. It wasn't magic. It is called leadership. It is the Tinubu effect. Vote wisely, vote Bola Tinubu for the president of Nigeria. God bless us all.
When I was younger, I got asked a question by a friend. What is the ultimate dream in life? You see, in my several decades on Earth, I have seen trends come and go, hopes dashed and deserted. But the story of success has taught us that the ultimate dream should be one that inspires you to paddle through the odds to victory. Finally, I had the answer. The ultimate dream is not a destination. It is a journey of pushing through the odds. It is about challenging the norm, to strive for excellence, to always be in motion, to never give up.
Nigeria needs focused leadership to take decisive action to end insecurity, reposition our economy for businesses to thrive, and restore total peace in the land. Tinubu is the right man for the job. Through innovation and technology, he will reposition Nigeria for businesses to thrive. Nigeria will export more and import less. Tinubu will reposition the agricultural sector for food security and improve farmers' welfare. Electricity will be reformed for a brighter Nigeria. Health, education, and housing will be more accessible and affordable. Nigeria will be transformed into an entertainment powerhouse, a home of sporting achievement, and a renowned tourist destination. Tinubu's government will build a Nigeria where we prosper together. He has done it before, and he will do it again for Nigeria.
For renewed hope 2023, vote Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President of Nigeria. Vote APC.
Great people of Lagos State, it's election time. It's time to consider the education sector and the tremendous transformation recorded in the past 3 years, ranging from erection of over 1,000 new classrooms in less than 4 years, all fully furnished. Introduction of CBT entrance examination and results checking in government schools. Job provision through recruitment of over 6,000 teachers. Introduction of a co-excel digital learning initiative to enhance teaching. Incentives for teachers. Introduction of new scheme of work, prioritizing co-curricular activities in school. Partnership and collaboration to boost education. All these have led to improvement in WAEC results with about 80% performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just taken you through the achievements and successes of the Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu administration. And you've seen that Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu has actually touched the whole value chain of education. The learning outcomes are excellent in all areas. So, therefore, I invite you to vote our Governor, Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, for his second term. I also invite you to vote for our leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the President of Nigeria.
Another APC candidate across the state. APC Progress. This message is brought to you by Honorable Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, Honorable Commissioner for Education, Lagos State.
Thank you for staying with us. It's 8 days to the conduct of the 2023 election, and we are counting down on Journalist Hangout. I still have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Emeka Madunagu in the studio. Jide, before we went on break, back on the street now, the situation of things, because we felt that, okay, after this speech by Mr. President, they're going to flood everywhere with the 200 Naira and the new notes. But apparently, from what was taken out of the system, we have shortage. And I don't know the capacity of the CBN and Nigerian Security and Meeting Company to print what we need in the country right now.
I've been saying something for days here. the experts on TV who say a lot of nonsense, none of them, because they are not patriots in the real sense of the word, none of them has referred to it. We have an unaccountable CBN. If the CBN was accountable, by now, you will have known how much they printed in terms of the value of currency and all that. You will have known how much. They will have been briefing us day to day. We are in a crisis situation. Yes. And when you are in a crisis, what looks like an emergency, people who truly respect the citizens of their country will be briefing them, will be showing them that really we are trying to solve this problem. We may not have solved this problem, but we are making concerted efforts. We are not saying that.
And it's not the time to be partisan.
Bank staff are saying, look, they call the CBN, most time they don't even pick them because they've not got enough to give people. It should be able to break it down for us to say, 500 naira note, this is what we have. This is what we printed. 1,000 naira note, this is what we printed. That's been accountable. You can't be in charge of the Apex Bank.
Our treasury.
Or the treasury, you can't be, what they call it in America, the treasury, whatever. And not be letting Americans know what efforts we are taking to solve a problem. CBN is already subsumed in politics. In any case, the man who held the CBN was desperate to become president of Nigeria. To the point that he even engaged a lawyer
to get an injunction,
to try to see whether he could force himself on the rest of us.
After losing the tickets, it became
now we wanted to be, because people were pointing to the law. And he wanted to circumvent the law.
That same man.
So he got a lawyer to try to interpret that portion of the law. Can I contest? Can I be stopped? What if they try to stop me? What if I say no? You know, something like that. Somebody who should never have even contemplated it.
And if
the mere contemplation of the idea itself was bad enough.
Would have thrown in the towel.
Now, he has lost the thing. You know, it was the governor of Adamawa that first told us that he's a bitter man. After he lost the primaries, this is what he wanted to use to punish us. It was Fintiri that first said so. People may be trying now to make this, because you have a Tambuwal among the governors that have challenged the federal government. Is Tambuwal now an APC governor? Is he not a PDP governor? Are his people too not suffering? The people who are going there or going out destroying things, do they write the party that they belong on their foreheads? When the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one household alone. That is the thing. Those the hypocrites today, who are refusing to speak the truth because they think this will lead to an end that they desperately want to see. Some of them are suffering. It's a lot worse for a lot of them than some of us. Because by the grace of God, some of us have friends in the banks. People that, when we go to the bank, sometimes after they've given us good service, we tip them. Sometimes they ask, do you need... I can give you my own quota, because even bank staff now have quota. They can't take more than 20,000, even if you are bank MD. So if we have money sufficiently, somebody will now be deciding that, look, I have ₦1 million in this account, in my account. You are telling me that I can't take 10,000. I can't take 20. You even gave directive that they should be paying people 20,000. The banks are flouting your directive. You've not made an example of any of them. The reason you are not making an example is because you know you have not given them enough. This is the truth. So the Constitution is clear. Mr. President has no right to say those things that he said, because under Section 2871 of the Constitution, the President is statutorily obliged to obey, enforce, and give effect to the decision of the Supreme Court. So why are you trying to make yourself a one-man Supreme Court? You are not prepared to wait. Whereas, what the law says is that once you bring yourself before the court, you must be patient enough to wait for his judgment. Malami knows that clearly, and he has to watch his back. Because everything does not end with the Buhari presidency. You leave now. Ondoka, go and ask Ondoka questions now. He's been Attorney General himself. And he fell out with his colleagues. The colleagues will wait for you. So if you can't advise the president to obey the law courts, obey the decisions of the court, even in critical matters like this, you are joking with a constitutional crisis. Because what if the Supreme Court gives an order that says, okay, in the light of the sufferings that Nigerians are going through, this is our decision, and it goes against what the president has said. What will happen?
Emeka, now, you find out, you know, I told you earlier that those opposed to Mr. President in the last 7 years, they are now his best friends. It's just side just changed. Yes, side just.
I don't know about that.
Side just changed, and you see Nigeria that this is, you know, everything we introduce politics into everything. We don't come together as one to fight something that is affecting our people.
Well, I wouldn't agree with you, because it's not as if you say those opposed to the president are now Buhari's. Then it's an assumption.
By their actions now. Because this appears to
this
be
the best policy.
You know why I would say so?
Mr. President is right.
One, Naira is not raining freely on anybody.
That's not. Nobody said they've taken money.
Yeah, no. I'm not talking about taking. No, I'm saying everybody's affected by this.
No, but some of them are pretending like they are not affected.
But good policy. But what about those who have supported Buhari in the past 7 years? Supported everything he did. Now, when fuel scarcity came, what happened? Did they get free fuel? The point is this. Nigeria is bigger than everybody. That's where I stand. Nigeria is bigger than everybody. And there's freedom of opinion. There's freedom of choice. But the main thing is that I think this administration had actually used an ex parte order to get a Chief Justice of Nigeria removed. So they ought to have known that, you know, if they believe so much in an ex parte order in doing something like that, then they too should have subjected themselves to the ex parte order, given by the Supreme Court. Then let lawyers, because the Attorney General of the Federation has filed an objection, and then I saw something the Justice Okoro said, that lawyers should not behave like politicians. They should think of the suffering and of the people and the interests of the nation. So what I believe is that, well, the government should actually tread carefully on this matter, so that the interests of Nigerians, the generality of Nigerians, all Nigerians, because all Nigerians need money, so that the interests of all Nigerians will be best served. Yes, the president listed some points. He said, you know, that motivated this policy.
Good point.
Very good point.
Good policy.
To me, just like Jide said, these certain things should have been put in place, and the policy should have been followed through. This question of one bank manager kept, you found that,
and it must be implemented 8 days before the general election.
Well, you see, I think if the president is saying he just received consultations, he just received views from various widespread consultations, that means he's saying, in a sense, that he didn't consult widely.
What do you have riots everywhere?
Before taking that decision. I think it should guide, that's one of the things we've really complained about. These decisions that have been taken without wide consultation.
All right. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout.
The very high workforce mobility of health workers is global. Doctors are moving and nurses are moving everywhere. I've had occasion to speak with other ministers. Even Ghana, they are losing doctors going to. So there's a high mobility in the health sector workforce. And in Europe, where the population is, and America, the population is aging more, a lot of nurses are not even working in the hospital, they're working in the homes for the elderly. So they require a lot of people. And here, what we are doing about it, first of all, to do everything we can to improve the conditions of service. We have improved the hazard allowance, We're looking at how to improve remunerations.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hello Nigerians, my name is Scarcity. I'm the APC Vice Presidential candidate. Here we have 1,776 orphans, vulnerable orphan girls from Northern Borno, all of them victims of Boko Haram, our house and educated, getting the best that the nation has on offer. Look at this edifice. It's about one of the best schools in the nation. And this has been replicated along the length and breadth of Borno and further sustained by Governor Babaga Sulu. Get us into office. We promise you such edifices will be replicated across the length and breadth of this nation. Vote wisely, vote Bola Tinubu for the presidency of Nigeria come February 25th.
When I was younger, I got asked a question by a friend. What is the ultimate dream in life? You see, in my several decades on Earth, I have seen trends come and go, hopes dashed and deserted. But the story of success has taught us that the ultimate dream should be one that inspires you to paddle through the odds to victory. Finally, I had the answer. The ultimate dream is not a destination. It is a journey of pushing through the odds. It is about challenging the norm, to strive for excellence, to always be in motion, to never give up.
Hello guys, do you know that in his Renewed Hope 2023 action plan, Bola Tinubu promised to fix our national security by implementing these common sense measures? The Bola Tinubu administration will increase the number of military and security personnel on active duty across the country, introduce modern doctrines and practices to better engage and defeat terrorists, kidnappers and bandits, upgrade weapon systems and introduce greater domestic production of munitions, introduce new border, forest and community security forces specializing in the protection of remote areas and variable terrain, reposition the police institution to focus on its primary duties of community policing and maintaining law and order, improve salaries and welfare for the families of our fallen heroes. This is the man who turned Lagos from a dangerous, often scary place where crime was the norm into a relatively safe and crime-free place it is today. He has the ideas, he has the track record. Vote APC for a safer and more secure Nigeria. This message is powered by the APC PCC Youth Directorate.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout, and we are looking at the currency crisis rocking Nigeria. And I have on the line Mr. Sam Omashe. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Hello.
Yes, Sam. Sam, tell us, what do you think about the president's speech this morning?
Yes, I made a comment this morning saying that the president has elevated himself above the rule of law. It is a dangerous trend in this country. If the Supreme Court has been able to make a statement, it is the job, as Jide said earlier, of the president to obey. He has made himself a lord and master of this democracy by what he has said. And this is becoming a precedent that we cannot accept as a people. If the Supreme Court says 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira are legal tenders, the president has no right, no authority whatsoever to go another way. What he has done is wrong. The other comment I want to make is that you guys said that his enemies in the past 7 years have become his friends. I mean, you guys went too far. His enemies last month have become his friends. I'm talking of the other major candidates of the election, presidential election, I'm talking of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, who have been quiet from the neck up since this crisis, apart from the fact that they said that it is little inconvenience. They should retract that statement, because it is not little inconvenience for the people who died in Benin yesterday. It's not little inconvenience for the man who died on the queue. It's not inconvenience for the person who is hungry, who cannot find food to eat. It is not. So we should get all these facts right, that there is a context to all of this, and those in this context to come out and say the truth.
Thank you, Sam Owashe. Thank you for your intervention, Sam. And when you look at the, Jide, on the final analysis, the Supreme Court said 22nd. That means they will consolidate all the, and they will make a pronouncement. And because
they
of
will start, they will hear the matter.
They will hear the matter.
So it's left for them to determine
whether
they will immediately give their verdict
or not.
Or tell them
but
to
this
come
is
back.
They also
a matter of national
jurisdiction too. There's the issue of jurisdiction.
Yes, everything they will.
Then the federal government's counter to the ex parte order. So all those things will line up.
They will look at it. So by 22nd, we'll know maybe they are going to make a pronouncement on it. But if at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is saying, oh, let's go back to the status quo, and somebody is telling me that they've trashed the 1,500 Naira that we had.
We didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear him say that. Some of those monies are sitting in bank vaults. We didn't, these banks were paying people old currency.
And it's still with Nigerians. We have this currency.
Banks were
we
paying
still have it
people,
abundantly.
even when the CBN governor said, don't pay people old notes. Banks were still paying people old notes.
Even as of yesterday.
ATM was still...
So see, we are not sure whether indeed anybody has incinerated some, except if I hear him eat from his mouth. If not add that from his mouth. And even if I hear that, I won't believe. I won't believe, because banks are still paying people old currencies. It could be an attempt to make it difficult
to revert.
But we can't preempt the Supreme Court. Okay. Let's wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the final court of the land and is the last hope of the common man. And the people who are dying, they are ordinary people. Those saying, oh, the people dying do not have bank accounts and all that. You don't have to have bank accounts. People just talk like silly people. You don't have to have bank accounts to feel this pain. In the villages, there are no bank accounts, but people still spend money. 18% of people, women in Jigawa have bank accounts, but they have a currency and they feel this pain. You don't have to have bank account to feel this pain. That's the point that I'm making.
Emeka, your final shot on this.
Yeah, I think what we end all this will be an out-of-court settlement. Yes, if you look at the trend of suits filed by states, jointly by states against the federal government, a number of them ended up out of court, with out-of-court settlements. So I think there will be an out-of-court settlement, with the tone of the Supreme Court that the sovereignty of Nigeria should be contemplated. I think every effort will be made between the executive and the judiciary to avoid a kind of clash that can worsen matters. But I think all in all, we should also avoid dragging politics into the matter. There's freedom of expression.
It has been politicized.
Yeah, but I think also journalists, we should avoid it. Dragging political personalities into the matter.
The reason the government that started that by saying that you did it to stop vote buying. You've already brought politics into it.
Yeah, well.
And all of the people, I can tell you that 99% of the people who support this is because they think it will stop vote buying. A lot of them have not even seen where vote buying was done know that it is not currency alone that you can use.
You find out in public discourse, narratives can go this way and this way, based on perceptions. But like I said at the beginning, the government needs to better handle all of these things so that Nigerians don't say that, okay, you want to stop some people, or you want to stop certain things from happening, but you are now making the poor man, figuratively called the grass, to suffer.
All right. I want to thank you, Emeka Madunagu.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Up next is Pundit Corner, where we'll dissect how the 2023 elections will be fought and won. You want to stay with us? With us on Anambra and Osun. Jide, where should we start from, Jide?
Yeah, I would like to start with Cross River.
Okay.
Cross River really looks interesting, and the contest there will be some hell of a battle. In the PDP, there are two factions. The Donald Duke faction and the Lieli Moke.
He's back in PDP.
Yes. Donald Duke enjoys the support of Yison Wike. After Governor Ayade left the party, it was Yison Wike that moved in, continued to oil the structures of the PDP in the state, and they were able to produce the candidate of the party, that Sandy Ojang Ono. So Sandy Ojang Ono emerged as candidate of the party. But because Donald Duke and his people do not want Atiku Abubakar, whereas Lieli Moke wants Atiku Abubakar, they've not been able to work together, which will hurt the party at both the
governorship and the presidential,
as well as the presidential election. In the Senate battles, for example, I expect the PDP to take 2 of the 3 seats. There is one fellow in Cross River who is so popular, probably the most popular politician in the state now. Yes, forget about the fact that the governor has resources and all that. Agom Jarigwe is a very, very popular politician. 150 out of 100. He's popular and belongs to the PDP. He's in the Senate and is waxing stronger. Since 1999, PDP has always won Cross River. And for that reason, many people are confident that the PDP will find a way to shade these elections. Yes, Peter Obi, with the young people, Peter Obi is doing well. But the elections are not usually fought and won with one segment of the voting population. In Ikom, in some of the distant parts of the state, the Obi message has not penetrated deeply enough for you to say, okay, from that area, you are sure that
you're getting the vote for the Labour Party.
PDP still has the hedge. Both in the presidential election and the governorship election. The governorship election is like 50-50. Between the APC and the PDP. The APC because of the influence of the governor. But
Governor Ayade has strengthened the APC.
No, he's coming into the party naturally. It will make the APC stronger. But the PDP, in terms of the grassroots and generally, the PDP is still strong. Ayade is yet to be tested in a major election. You know what he can do in a major election, but the way it's going, the presidential election, Atiku has an edge in the presidential election because many people still want to vote for the PDP. Then in the governorship is a little like 50-50. 50-50 between both parties. It depends on how Ayade turns up for the candidate of his party.
Okay.
You know?
Let's talk about Osun State now.
Now, Osun, yes, I've seen some surveys indicating that, Osun State will go the way of the PDP. That's not what I think will happen. In the presidential election, that's not what I think will happen. Of course, the governorship election is not being contested this time, so we are focused on the National Assembly. You know, the
battle for the soul of that assembly.
Yes, because both governors, both men, Oyetola and the incumbent governor, still see themselves as capable of retaining the position or taking the position.
So the stake will be very high.
Oyetola would do his best to win as many House seats as he can, so that if the judiciary gives him that seat back, he will be able to have a House that is in control of. Now, in the case of Adeleke, he would want to
overhaul the House.
He would want to take control of the House. So he would do his best beyond his Ede fortress. He would want to do his best
to make sure the assembly members are people that will be loyal to him.
People who will be able to support his aspiration and all that. So there will be a big contest in there,
the House of Assembly.
The House of Assembly. But I expect the APC to shade that contest, no matter how little. Or shade it a little bit. In the Senate race, I expect it to be a 2-1, 2 for APC, 1 Senate seat for the PDP. In the presidential election, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the man to beat. I will tell you why I'm convinced that Tinubu will win in Osun. Before the last rally, the NURTW, the Workers' Union of Drivers in the state, were told not to release buses to convey people. Do you know that some people went as far as Ekiti and Ondo to get buses to convey people to the rally? Some went to Ejigbo to get buses that apply the Côte d'Ivoire route. That's to tell you how people really, the extent they went just to be part of that rally. And the crowd was so huge that even Asiwaju. The Yorubas do not give up their own. Where the Yorubas give up their own is if 2 Yorubas are in a race. Awolowo, during his time, I remember 79, 83, he never lost a Yoruba state. OBJ lost a Yoruba state because Olufalaye was on the ballot. Yes. And Olufalaye won all the Yoruba states. But by 2003, that didn't happen. He took the Yoruba states. You know? So the point that I'm making is the Yorubas will vote for Asiwaju, and they are in overwhelming majority in Osun State. Labour Party doesn't even feature, because go back to the governorship election, the candidate of the Labour Party, Yusuf Lasun, how many votes did he get?
Former Deputy Speaker.
How many votes did he get? I think about 3,000 or so, or even not up to that.
We'll check for us.
Yeah, we'll check. So I think between 2,000 or 3,000, but very, very infinitesimal vote. So Asiwaju will win the presidential election in Osun State. That is as sure as hell.
Okay, Jide, let's quickly take this breather. When we come back, we continue with our pundit corner.
My name is Kashim Shetima. I'm an agricultural economist by training, a banker by profession, and now a public servant by calling. I was the governor of Borno State for 8 years. In the heat of the Boko Haram, we set up an agricultural transformation committee. We crisscrossed the world
and invested in the whole agricultural value chain. Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria in terms of landmass, 3,577 square kilometers. But the largest rice mill in Africa and the third largest in the world is located in Imota in Lagos. That is the power of ideas. Bola Tinubu is an idea whose time has come. Let us vote for Bola Tinubu to be the president of Nigeria come 25th of February. God bless Nigeria.
The very high workforce mobility of health workers is global. Doctors are moving and nurses are moving everywhere. I've had occasion to speak with other ministers. Even Ghana, they are losing doctors going to, so there's a high mobility in the health sector workforce. And in Europe, where the population is, and America, where the population is aging more, a lot of nurses are not even working in the hospital, they're working in the homes for the elderly. So they require lots of people. And here, what we are doing about it, first of all, is to do everything we can to improve the conditions of service. We have improved the hazard allowance. We're looking at how to improve remunerations.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
A day to remember in the history of our dear country, Nigeria. 9 wise men from the north who are governors came together on June 8th, 2022 to stand for equity and fairness in the interest of our nation, Nigeria. They buried personal interest for the unity of our country. They supported the call that power must shift to the south in 2023. They chose a Nigeria agenda. We salute our brothers and sisters in the northern part of this country who, in spite of their vote advantage, continue to propagate the unity of Nigeria by promoting rotational presidency between the north and southern part of the country. Let voters in the north follow the move by these leaders. Vote for power shift to the south. It's the turn of the south to produce the president in 2023. Let's vote Bola Tinubu for president for a renewed hope of better Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Pundit's corner for journalist Hangout, and Julie, we are still in Osun State. Ultimately, it's still the PDP state. Yes. Adeleke is still in charge of that state till the court says otherwise.
You see, even in Osun State, the progressive Yoruba states, the people still vote in certain ways. For example, Ife Jesha, the APC is very strong in the Ife area, very strong right now in the Ife area. Some parts of Ijesha may vote PDP, you know, but in the presidential election, it is what will happen. Let's not kid ourselves. Politics is local. Ashwaju is not a local champion. He has built bridges across the country. He has friends everywhere. You saw when he mentioned Asari Dokubo as his friend of more than 20 years. But at the same time, the point that I'm making is that the people would vote for him, he would naturally be their choice ahead of anyone else on the ballot. So I expect him to win, not because, he's just Yoruba, no. I expect him to win because
he's worked so hard.
He's worked hard over the years.
Ekiti State.
Well, Ekiti is just like Osun Ekiti. The governorship election will not be taking place. But in Ekiti, similar to Oyo in some ways, a good number of the political heavyweights, all the former governors, for example, they are supporting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Minister of Industries.
That Adeniyi Adebayo, John Kayode Fayemi,
even
Segun
Oni. What's his name? Fayose.
Fayose.
Everyone knows that Fayose is leaning towards Tinubu. That's why the party decided to punish him. Yes, so they took his ESCO from him. So where the people who should normally even be against you are all singing from the same hymnal. It is a predictable outcome.
But
it is a rural Yoruba state, and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be elected as president in that state. That will be the choice of the people of Ekiti State. Nobody comes close. Ekiti is gradually becoming even a one-party state, the real sense of the word. No one will come close. The vote of the people of Ekiti shall be for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
And that's it from the Pundit's Corner today. Join us tomorrow as we continue with our state analysis of the presidential and the governorship election. And that's our offering on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Join us this Sunday for Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. See you tomorrow.
In the month of February, 4th of February is World Cancer Day. 6th of February is International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, while 11th of February is dedicated to women and girls in science. On the 12th of February, it's International Day Against the Use of Child Soldiers, also known as Red Hand Day. On the 20th, it's World Day of Social Justice. By the 24th, it will be 1 year since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. Stay tuned to TVC News as we bring you in-depth report and analysis of these events. This Sunday, the freedom of movement is a fundamental human right. But when the right is taken away, what happens? This is the story of survivors trafficked from Nigeria to Libya and other parts of the world. Senior correspondent Sharon Ejason exposes the routes and tricks used by traffickers to lure young girls and boys into perpetual slavery.
She told me that you do prostitution. I say prostitution. Even though I can't do prostitution in my country, is it a country I don't even know anything about? I told her I can't do that.
In this touching story, survivors of irregular migration share the gripping tales of how their dream of a bright future transformed into a dark world of fantasy.
Nigerian embassy told me to go back to where I'm coming from.
It is an organized crime where perpetrators escape prosecution. The society keeps mute and the social media fool it to become a big business. Watch this investigative piece exposing the realities of human trafficking. That's on Sunday Specials, where great stories live.
Ignorance is the mother of personal destruction, a voluntary misfortune, and it is worse when you are ignorant of your ignorance.
You and Your Health with Dr. Richard Okoye is brought to you by Dr. Civilite Foundation as he uncovers the mystery behind most deadly diseases, their causes, prevention, and latest treatment. Send in your comment and health-related questions. Together, Let's liberate Africa from health ignorance.
Hear this, you are ignorantly awaiting the arrival of your wife's menopause. If you have low sperm count and ignore it.
Join Dr. Richard Okoye every Sunday
at TVC News. Wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The Shared Prosperity Weekly TV series on TVC News. It is through this telecast the viewers get to know what is happening in the prosperity government of His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma, the Executive Governor of Imo State. Through this program, all questions agitating the minds of citizens and residents of Imo State are answered in details with documentary evidence. Don't miss it. Keep a date with us every Sunday on TVC News by 9 p.m.
In the month of February, 4th of February is World Cancer Day. 6th of February is International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, while 11th of February is dedicated to women and girls in science. On the 12th of February, it's International Day Against the Use of Child Soldiers, also known as Red Hand Day. On the 20th, it's World Day of Social Justice. By the 24th, it will be 1 year since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. Stay tuned to TVC News as we bring you in-depth reports and analysis of these events.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We'll be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
Hello everyone, it's exactly 8 days to the Presidential and National Assembly election, and despite the Supreme Court ruling, President only extended the use of 200 Naira notes by 60 days, saying the other old notes are no longer legal tender. Thanks for joining us on the program. Let's find out what you think about the President's speech earlier today on Twitter. Tag me at Nifemi Okotoye, use the hashtag TVC Countdown 2023. President Muhammadu Buhari today announced that the old 200 Naira notes will remain a legal tender until April 10, 2023. During a nationwide broadcast, the president apologized to all for the difficulties experienced in accessing the new Naira notes. He said the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes have ceased to be legal tender from 10 February, explaining that they can be returned to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's have more details in this report.
Of the loopholes associated with money laundering.
A national broadcast that was widely anticipated. So much more to be desired. The Central Bank of Nigeria's currency redesign policy has drastically weakened the purchasing power of citizens, an outcome that was least expected. President Muhammadu Buhari's directive that the old 200 Naira notes should be reintroduced as legal tender contradicts suggestions made by the Nigeria Governors Forum and the advice of the Council of States for the old currency to coexist with the new Naira notes until they are gradually phased out.
I have given approval to the CBN that the old 200 Naira banknotes be released back into circulation, and that it should also be allowed to circulate as legal tender with the new 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira banknotes for 60 days from February 10th to April 10th, 2023, when the old 200 Naira notes ceases to be legal tender.
The president has not considerably shifted grounds. He insists this currency redesign will restore the statutory ability of the Apex Bank to keep a firm control over the money in circulation, as about 2.1 trillion naira out of the banknotes previously held outside the banking system had been successfully retrieved.
I have been reliably informed that since the commencement of this program, about 2.1 trillion naira out of the banknotes previously held outside the banking system had been successfully retrieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari seems excited that the new monetary policy will contribute to the minimization of the influence of money in politics. Legacy step by his administration to improving the electoral process. But for Nigerians, the biggest gain will be to have access to cash, as they will have to wait for the central bank to improve the circulation of the new Naira notes.
And reactions continue to trail Mr. President's approval of 200 Naira old note circulation for the next 60 days. The latest is coming from a civil society organization, Center for Social and Economic Rights, which has now condemned the violence that broke out in some parts of the country as a result of insensitive and provocative implementation of the Naira redesign policy. In a press statement by the Group Executive Director Nelson Ekujimi, it says the pains and anguish inflicted on innocent Nigerians may, by the inhuman implementation of this policy, has degenerated into pockets of violence. And on the president's speech, the group is saying, recognizing only the old 200 Naira as legal tenders by law, a contempt of court. The big question will be, whose declaration should Nigerians comply with, the president or the Supreme Court? Well, one thing is certain, that Nigerians are confused as to who to believe. The president is given a directive contrary to that of the Supreme Court. So we spoke to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Paul Ananaba, to explain separation of powers and who Nigerians should obey at this time.
By those sections 287 and all that of the Constitution, the president is mandated by the Constitution to carry out the decisions of the Supreme Court. In the past, Nigerians are part of this problem, because in the past, the Federal High Court or the State High Court will make pronouncements and we'll just sweep them by the side because we consider them lower courts. Today, it has grown to Court of Appeal and now at the Supreme Court. I don't imagine that the Supreme Court will make a pronouncement and any government official of whatever level goes and to say something contrary to that. The framers of the Constitution placed the legislature as Section 4 of the Constitution and placed the executive as Section 5, placed the judiciary as Section 6. It is deliberate. Now, the actions of the legislature and the executive will be tested and interpreted by the judiciary and by the Reality School of Jurisprudence. What the courts say and nothing else, that is the law. It is what the courts say that is the law. The situation now, that I said, that was why I said there was going to be a crisis, because the citizen is left between choosing whether to obey the president's speech or to obey the Supreme Court. And having told you that what the courts say, and the Supreme Court is the court itself, because it is the last court. So I will advise every citizen of Nigeria to obey the Supreme Court, because that's what the Constitution says, Section 27. And I believe that the president will address the situation. He will remedy it. I believe so, because I don't think that he intended to get what he will be hearing from the citizens. He is the father of the nation, and he cannot ignore his children, cannot ignore Nigerians. It cannot be that either a president or a governor or any other highly placed person in Nigeria, officer, will, by a person's speech or comment void an existing pronouncement of the court.
So what is the law? What the court says, or what Mr. President is saying? Well, Professor Paul Nanaba is going with the court. The president's position is quite contrary to the position of the Supreme Court. But can Mr. President overrule the Supreme Court? We also spoke to Senior Advocate of Nigeria and the Attorney General, as well as Commissioner of Justice in Lagos, Muyosore Unigbanjo. Let's listen to his position.
This directive or this speech by Mr. President is quite contrary to the injunctive order granted by the Supreme Court. And I believe Mr. President has powers, no doubt, in the Constitution, but those powers does not include the power to sit on appeal in respect of the decision of the Supreme Court or any court for that matter. So as far as I'm concerned, as a lawyer and as the Attorney General of Lagos State, the interim order of the Supreme Court still stands, basically because Mr. President, even in all his enormity, cannot overrule any order made by the Supreme Court.
Nigerians have two directives, one from the Supreme Court asking that the old notes remain legal tender pending the hearing of the substantive matter. Mr. President earlier today is saying only 200 Naira old note is considered legal tender, and every other old note should now be submitted at the Central Bank of Nigeria. We spoke to a cross-section of Nigerians to have an understanding of what they feel about this new development.
It's a welcome development, but we still need that 500 and 1,000 because the small money, we cannot carry it as bunch. But when we have 1,000, it will be easier for us.
People are suffering because of this money. People are suffering too much. We can't buy anything in the market. The small one we have, they told us to go and deposit in the bank. Okay, we reach bank, they give first the money. Only 5,000 cannot buy anything.
200 Naira cannot solve our problem. Because that 1,500 is the major high currency that people need to buy what they want to buy. Because other people are having 1,000 Naira in their hand. If you buy something with this 1,000, they have to give you change of 200. But when you give them this 1,000, they reject it. Is it not our currency? It's our currency, even though it's old one. But let them give us chance, time, so that when the new money circulates, then we can use everything.
The people that were doing the protests, the way they were doing scattering bank and other things, trying to go and break CBN, I was not happy over it. But at the end of the day, about 3-4 people died. But I was so sad about it.
National Assembly should reconvene immediately and look into the issue. Join the conversation using the hashtag TVC Countdown 2023 as to what you think about Mr. President's speech earlier today vis-a-vis a contrary directive via the Supreme Court ruling that came in on the 8th of February. How are state governors handling this latest pronouncement from President Buhari on the Naira redesign? Just yesterday, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu warned those rejecting the old Naira notes to stop or face prosecution. He said the rejection of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes is contrary to the position of the Supreme Court. Governor Sanwo-Olu's warning is coming after the Supreme Court adjourned the case on the Naira swap policy of the CBN till February 22nd for hearing of the consolidated suits by 10 state governors. Kogi State, just like Lagos, were a party to the suit, asking the Supreme Court to stop CBN's deadline. A few hours before President's speech this morning, the Kaduna State government released a press statement via the governor's special advisor on media and communication, saying that they had a conversation between some people from the federal government and governors who were talking about the fact that the 500 and 1,000 notes have been destroyed by the banks. They seem to not have believed this narrative, and they are saying that the 200 Naira note is not enough to take away Nigeria's suffering at this time. Senior correspondent Ayodele Uzubaku joins me to discuss this very interesting development. The president asked for 7 days. I think it's way more than 7 days before we eventually heard from him. Some are talking about, let's begin with the timing of the president's public intervention. It's coming, his speech is coming on the heels of the violent protest in Edo yesterday. A certain number of people were reportedly killed. Would you say that his intervention is rife at this time?
If you look at the way Muhammadu Buhari, if you look at his style since 2015, the president cannot be referred to as ever being proactive to issues like this. There's this kind of laid-back attitude that it takes time. He said it himself that he normally weighs things, that it takes him time to make decisions on things like this, and he came with his broadcast, and a lot of Nigerians are looking at that. However, that it's belated that people are still holding on to the old notes, and people are still, they still have a kind of in circulation that legal tender, as the legal tender, while the governor of Lagos State is giving an order. But from the speech of the president today, you know abundantly that the 500 Naira, the 1,000 Naira, however it suits you, it might not sit down well with you, is now a thing of the past. Yes, this might not be going according to the ruling of the Supreme Court, but the truth of the matter is that, you know, we have this, what we call exclusive lists. And out of those 68 items on the exclusive list of the federal government, there's a monetary policy is strictly in the purview of the federal government. Whether the federal government can be the final arbiter, the Supreme Court will decide. Will decide that. But Governor Sanwo-Olu we might say lacks the locus, lacks the power, lacks the, do you understand? You know, the authority to tell people that this is what you have spent, that this is the legal
But hasn't the Supreme Court already decided with its ruling? Because the idea, for instance, what some senior advocates of Nigeria is talking about is the fact that the duty of obedience to the court order is for all and sundry. And where there is an order from the court and you are dissatisfied, the best thing to do is to appeal against the order, not say, I'm not going to obey it.
The federal government has not said they are not going to obey it. It's just they are going ahead with that plan. And the order of the Supreme Court, a lot of people will say that it's an interlocutory order that has a time span. And we're not sure if it was extended yesterday, but the lawyers in that court yesterday said it was extended. And the federal government, they've gone ahead to say 200 Naira intervention will come in, but 500, 1,000 Naira is not a thing of the past.
Let's talk about what this means for the All Progressives Congress that is coming into this election with a power of incumbency. Just a few hours ago, Zamfara State Governor, Ogun State Governor, I think Lagos State Governor have boldly said you are going to be prosecuted if you don't take these old notes. Just a few hours before Mr. President's speech, the Kaduna State Governor preempted what Mr. President was going to say. 200 Naira notes alone is not going to resolve the challenges that Nigerians are currently facing. how do you see the party move on from here? Because even the APC governors have taken the presidency to court.
Very interesting times ahead, Nifemi. The House divided against itself, and they are not speaking with one voice again. And a lot of suspicion within the House. And if you remember that the formation of APC is like an amalgam of different political parties, and these legacy parties, they are beginning to take position, different position. You have the CPC element and
the
ACN elements,
yeah.
you know, actually taking positions and everything. And if you remember, the candidates of the party belong to ACN, and Mr. President belongs to CPC, while some alignment and realignment has been done, but the House is currently divided against itself.
It looks like they're not really
wait
mixing.
for the Supreme Court on the 22nd of February.
That intervention is coming some 3 days before the presidential election.
Yes,
so the big question will be, how much impact will all of this have on APC's chances in this election? It would seem that even at the rallies, we see Mr. President and the APC presidential candidate, you know, share a smile or two. He holds his hands. He's still doing his duty to support the party's candidate. But apparently, the APC governors are not quite excited about his decision on the CBN policy.
They have their ways of solving their issues, resolving their issues. Ultimately, they'll sit down the round table and something will give. But ultimately, what we're looking at is the sufferings of Nigerians. They'll be able to make things easier for Nigerians and this Naira to be accessible for Nigerians.
Absolutely. Attention is now turned back to if Mr. President's decision is going to bring the much anticipated relief. Already we see that the fuel queues are already dwindling. It looks like there's been a significant intervention in that regard. It's not as bad as it was, you know, a few days ago. But with the 200 Naira note, what do you anticipate? Do you think that it will take a while. Cash crunch is going to
take a while before this thing will circulate. It will take a while. I can tell you that the Nigerian Security and Minting Company that has just started printing the new notes, they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity to actually print the amounts that was mopped up out of, you know, the circulation. They were told that we had 3.7 trillion naira outside the banking sector. And if it was 3.3 million naira, as of last month, that they were able to mop up 2.9 trillion naira. You know, so if you are going to give an alternative currency or you're going to print new notes, you should be talking in the region of 2.5 trillion naira, 2.7 trillion naira to be able to at least to ease the, to ease the
tension
in town right now. So maybe the 200 naira, by the time it's injected, I don't see it easing out immediately, but with time, it will come out.
Let's talk about how stakeholders can intervene, because yesterday in Delta, in Edo, and then I think in Oyo State, there were some, you know, really violent protests and attacks in parts of the state. Who are those that must rise up now and speak to Nigerians that that approach is not going to be accurate? It's not going to solve the problem. Destroying bank facilities perhaps going to make the situation worse than it currently is.
I expect the Council of States meeting that was held last week, those former president and everybody to come together, and they should be able to tell Mr. President and even bring the CBN governor that, look, pending the time for the full implementation of this, you have to extend the deadline. And these things, good policy, but what we are looking at is the deadline. The deadline will make sure that, look, I still have like 20,000 naira old notes with me. And I looked at it, I gave to a vendor this morning and said, no, okay, I'm not taking it.
I'm not taking it.
I attempted spending it, you know, at the filling station and said, no, we're not taking old notes. So it's quite chaotic. A lot of Nigerians, they still have that money in circulation. So they are looking for opportunities the window to be extended so that they'll be able to, you know, do away with this old money, get it and by whatever the federal government want to do in regards of this new currency change.
Absolutely. Let's just bring in Commissioner for Information in Kogi State, Kingsley Fanwo. We're running out of time, Mr. Fanwo, but very quickly, talk to us about how the Kogi State government is reacting after Mr. President's speech this morning.
Thank you very much, As aware, we all listen to what Mr. President said today. We are reviewing the situation. There is no clear line of action right now. But as we are also aware, the case is before the Supreme Court, and they will resume hearing on February 22nd. We are very confident that the Supreme Court will go ahead with the case, and whatever decision they arrive at, we are confident that we have a president that but just to toe the line of constitutionalism and believe in the rule of law. So that's what we are holding on up to right now.
So how soon before we get the reaction that you talked about?
We are not going to go beyond the case we already instituted at the Supreme Court. The process is going on, and it has been adjourned till February 22nd. So on February 22nd, we'll hopefully Supreme Court will be able to either arrive at a decision or reserve a date for judgment eventually. So we are going to wait. We are going to wait for that decision of the Supreme Court. Commissioner for Information, Kogese Kingsley Farwell, thank you for talking to us on the countdown. It would seem that the governors are now relying solely on the decision of the Supreme Court. And we have to wait it out.
Yes, ultimately, final habitat.
Absolutely. Ayodele Ozubako, senior advocate of Nigeria. Senior advocate, journalist. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. That's our show today. Thanks for being a part of it. Do not forget that you can watch a repeat broadcast 6 a.m. tomorrow. Join us on all of our social media handles, and we'll be back at 7 p.m. for all news-making headlines, home and abroad. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thank you for watching.
In the month of February, 4th of February is World Cancer Day. 6th of February is International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, while 11th of February is dedicated to women and girls in science. On the 12th of February, it's International Day Against the Use of Child Soldiers, also known as Red Hand Day. On the 20th, it's World Day of Social Justice. By the 24th, it will be 1 year since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. Stay tuned to TVC News as we bring you in-depth reports and analysis on these events.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
This Sunday, the freedom of movement is a fundamental human right. But when the right is taken away, what happens? This is the story of survivors trafficked from Nigeria to Libya and other parts of the world. Senior correspondent Sharon Ejason exposes the routes and tricks used by traffickers to lure young girls and boys into perpetual slavery.
She told me that you do prostitution. I say prostitution. Even though I can't do prostitution in my country, it's really a country I don't even know anything about. I told her I can't do that.
In this touching story, survivors of irregular migration share the gripping tales of how their dream of a bright future transformed into a dark world of fantasy.
Nigerian Embassy told me to go back to where I'm coming from.
It is an organized crime where perpetrators escape prosecution. The society keeps mute and the social media fool it to become a big business. Watch this investigative piece exposing the realities of human trafficking. That's on Sunday Specials, where great stories live. Kano State is not just the commercial capital of northern Nigeria. It is the seat of an ancient kingdom that has thrived for more than 1,000 years. It's home to people with a proud and glorious heritage, a dynamic and thriving state. Let's take you on a weekly ride through Kano to see how Governor Abdullahi Ganduje is making steady strides through infrastructure development, education reform, quality and affordable healthcare, urban rejuvenation, human capital development, and more. Kano Spotlight, Friday, 9:30 p.m. on TVC News.